Welcome back to the Focus Podcast. Today we have Michael Holmes with Holmes Law Group on the show. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was fun working with you a couple of weeks ago, shooting your video for the firm. And so you were just so articulate, just one of the easiest clients we've ever worked with. And so I was like, this guy knows a ton, building a good team. Every interaction I've had with the firm has been good, whether it was yourself or Trish. And so I was like, I've got to get this guy on the show.
You're very kind. Thank you. I hope I can live up to that today. No pressure.
And I mean that because it's like, it wasn't put on. You could tell like, this is exactly how I feel. This is why I built my firm. And that's why we love doing these story videos because
Right.
it really comes out the why behind what people are doing. And a lot of our audience, they're either business owners or executives. And so I wanted to have you on to share your knowledge as a business attorney because a lot of businesses out there, unfortunately, they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants.
Absolutely.
And they're scrambling and like, oh, let me just send out this contract or, paperwork or LLC or S Corp. What are we doing? So I wanted to have you on to kind of educate our audience a little bit. And first and foremost, what are some of the common mistakes that you're seeing out there when it comes to businesses when they come to you?
Well, as you mentioned, a lot of business owners, when they get started, fly by the seat of their pants. And that's totally understandable. You're just trying to see if you're even going to make it as an entrepreneur. And the last thing you want to do is to pay a ton of money to some lawyer to help you with a bunch of legal documents. And so a lot of people go to some of the online resources, LegalZoom and what have you, to get set up. And that's okay. The problem, the issue that people have is then they stick with those. Once the business starts working, once they get to a point where they can start putting money towards an attorney, towards the next iteration of their company, they really should do so. The last thing you want, and we get this pretty often, are people that are 3, 5, 7 years in, still using the same form documents that they found online. And then that, dreaded demand letter or, an issue with an employee arises and suddenly they realize they aren't prepared. So what we always tell people is once you get your feet under you and the business is working, maybe after the first year, start putting money aside for a legal fund. And that's no fun to say. Nobody wants to do that, but you're really going to be happy that you did.
No, I agree, and I think it's more of an investment too, because, um, yeah, it's never fun to pay legal fees and whatnot. But what's worse is the amount of money that you could cost yourself by not having a solid agreement in place. An attorney that I talked to years ago that put together a lot of our stuff said you put together the agreements for when things go sour. Because typically, when you start a relationship, everything is great.
Right.
And so it's like, well, let's structure this in a way to where when things aren't so great. So that helps me segue into the contracts piece. I know you all write, various different business, contracts.
We do.
So how should a business owner approach a contract, especially if they're working with a subcontractor, maybe a partner, employee agreements, these kinds of things? How do you walk them through um, what kind of contracts they should have, and then how to kind of form that?
Well, part of our analysis when we first meet with people are figuring out those relationships that will need a contract. Generally speaking, every relationship that a business has with a vendor, third party, subcontractor does need a contract. That may sound overkill, it may sound self serving for the attorney to say that, but no one thinks that things are going to go wrong. And unfortunately, an attorney's job is to think about the worst case scenario. We are there to handle the situations when, that family member that you decided to work with, that, oh, you trusted them completely, they have issues for some reason or another. They take money out of the company that they weren't supposed to, or they have some crisis in their life and they make a bad decision. No one wants to think about those situations, but every relationship that a business has, say you're getting a material or a product from someone, you need a contract there. And you can't just take the contract that the vendor has because, of course, that's going to be in their benefit.
Right.
You want to have someone advocating for you, that is protecting you, that cares about your business almost as much as you do, and is telling you this provision is not in your best interest. We need to revise that. And again, attorneys are expensive. We get that. We wish we weren't, but it's the world that we're in. And with that, you need to be prepared up front. We always tell people you can pay us on the front end for good contracts, or you can pay us on the back end when everything starts to get into a fight or start to unravel. And we really don't want that. We want you to succeed because a good business, a good community is critical to all of us.
Yeah, and you touched on some good things there, especially when it comes to family members. We work with a lot of family businesses. We work with a lot of multi generational businesses, and a lot of the first generation that started the business, they have a lot of deals in place, which is a handshake.
Right.
And it kind of reminds me, this is dating myself a little bit, of the Jerry Maguire movie where the
Mhm.
quarterback, his dad basically told Jerry Maguire, my word is strong as a handshake or
And then he
whatnot.
signs the deal an hour later.
Exactly,
Mhm.
and so you have to have these pieces in place, and what I'm seeing are a lot of the second and third generation coming in and saying, "Yes, I understood you ran it like this
Mhm.
20, 30 years ago, but this is where we need to go now, whether it's
Right.
marketing, whether it's contracts and whatnot." And especially, business to client, a lot of people have those in place, but maybe not, the vendors.
Right.
So that's what I hear you saying too, is that not only are you forming contracts, but
Mhm.
if someone were to send me a contract, I could ask you to review.
Yes.
um, do you see a lot of people just not reviewing contracts and
Well, even worse, it's kind of like we all do with the Apple terms and conditions. We click the little box and
Mhm.
say, "Oh, I reviewed this." No, you didn't. And that's okay. We get that. But when, especially, it's your business on the line,
Yeah.
you need to understand that contract. And sure, maybe some lay people can absolutely understand the terms. I have trouble. 13 years in now, understanding sometimes some of the provisions and their implications for the business or for the individual. An example we had recently is if someone came to me and they said, "Hey, business isn't working. We've got this large obligation, and I don't think we're going to be able to pay it immediately, but we can pay it over time." I said, "Well, send me your agreement on that." He had a guarantee provision and an acceleration clause that said he had to pay it within 30 days.
Mhm.
Personally, he didn't realize that because he'd never had anyone actually look at the agreement before he signed it. We really want to protect you from those dangers. We're not just trying to make money off of you. We are really trying to promote that long term business venture between us.
Yeah.
And, look at us more as an investment, more of as an asset to the company rather than just an expense. And I promise your attorney will, be able to really promote that long-term interest for your business rather than just, short-term, I didn't understand this agreement, I need to move on.
Right. Have you noticed any industries that come to you more or that maybe need a little more protection than others?
Not particularly.
Okay.
There are pitfalls in every industry. And as you mentioned earlier, with people doing handshake agreements, that was true in the prior generation and still to an extent is. A lot of people that are our age are now inheriting their parents' businesses and realizing how little was actually written down. And if you bring us in, we can help you go back and get those in writing and figure out where your weak points and your pressure points are so that you are better protected moving forward because unfortunately society is getting more litigious, not
Mhm.
less.
Yes.
And you need to be prepared for that instead of trying to live in a world that is no longer there.
No, I agree, and one thing that I've noticed as well is it helps you in a branding perspective too, in a marketing perspective. There will be times to where we get hired on for a project simply because I have a formal agreement,
Hmm.
and there's a lot of freelancers out there that are just like, "Oh, yeah, I can do it for the," but they don't have it laid out, and so it
Yeah.
adds a legitimacy
Exactly.
to your
That was
business.
going to be my word for it.
Yeah.
It adds legitimacy. It adds professionalism. It demonstrates that you aren't a fly-by-night entity that may not show up, but you are one that has actually taken the time and taken the investment to make your business best for everyone.
I love it. Yes. So we talked about when things are going great.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of businesses out there have experienced the dreaded demand letter, um, or cease and desist letter, if you will.
Right.
What needs to be done if a business were to get the demand letter?
Absolutely.
Can
When a
we can we
business
just can we just put that under the rug, or do we have to actually do something with
you
that?
can, and some people decide too.
Okay.
But you need to understand the implications if you do so. If you ignore a demand letter, or you ignore a cease and desist, or even you get served with a lawsuit, you absolutely can ignore it. The problem is you have to understand the implications for you and your business, because sometimes that could mean that you could get a lawsuit and a judgment against you with which you will never be able to fight it again.
Mm,
And so you can make that business judgment. And we do sometimes have clients that decide, I'm just not going to fight this. But the point when you get any of these is to have an attorney already on retainer or already prepared that knows your business. You don't want to be calling an attorney for the first time when you get that demand letter, cease and desist, lawsuit, so that they have to get up to speed on everything within a short window of time.
yes.
All of those have some type of deadline that you're going to have to respond to in, and many times we really can't control that. We can just respond, within the 2 weeks or what have you that we may get. So in those situations, please reach out to an attorney. There are many times where I understand people try to do it on their own. They're entrepreneurs, they pulled themselves up by their bootstraps. That's wonderful.
Hmm.
This is not one of those times. This is one of those times where you need to reach out to an attorney immediately. You need to, frankly, have an attorney already prepared, and they will explain to you the best course of action that you may be able to take in that situation.
Excellent, excellent. And I love how you talked about kind of already having that relationship built up, because I'm not going to nail this. I'm going to need your help with it. In your video, you talked about you want to be there from formation to litigation or
Yeah,
something of
yeah,
that nature.
that's
Was that
yeah.
right?
From formation through trial.
Yeah,
Yes.
formation through trial. And so, yeah, you definitely want to have someone like yourself on hand
Right.
that has walked with you and like you said, knows your business. I think that's a key aspect of that, if I'm hearing that correctly.
Yes, it really is. We had a women-owned business contact us yesterday that was connected to us, referred to us, and she said, "We really don't have any problems right now, but I've heard, you're excellent with businesses, and I just wanted to get to know you." And so we spent 45 minutes just getting to know each other, and me getting to know her business and getting to know, she is a second generation business owner, and, what their pain points may be. And it was a wonderful interaction. She's going to give us just a small retainer so that she can have us ready.
Yeah.
And she's having us look at one or two things with her employment agreements. That's wonderful. We love that. We love to be ready for you when you need us. But otherwise, it's not like we're going to sit there and charge you a monthly fee or something like that. We are just going to have your business already in our system and your business already in our minds for when something does go wrong. We will be much more responsive and much more efficient at being able to handle it. It's tough going in blind
Right.
sometimes where, we get something, and we've had this happen a couple times where we have about 5 days to respond.
Mm,
At that point, we're just kind of doing the best we can.
right.
But, there's so much more benefit for your business if you already have the right vendors in place, and an attorney is definitely one of those.
And I love how you phrase it as an investment, because I feel like by having a really good business attorney in place like yourself, you're more playing offense
Hmm.
than playing defense.
Right.
And so you have that confidence that you have airtight, procedures and policies and your contracts in place to where, because if you're large enough, you're going to run into something.
Right.
At worst case scenario, you're going to have something reviewed so you don't sign something crazy.
Exactly.
And so that's where I see it. as an investment, and hopefully our listeners are doing the same. Is there anything else that you want our audience to know about your firm, or just the benefits of having a business attorney in general?
Well, I think the biggest thing that people need to know is it is no longer the days in which, in order to have a very competent expert business attorney, you have to go to one of the large law firms. That's not what is available now. What's available now are people like us that are a fully virtual law firm that has decades of experience in, business matters, like we said, from formation through trial. And so we can help you at a price point that is much more reasonable than those big law firms. We can also be a lot more responsive than those big law firms. And so don't be afraid of reaching out to us if you have a need. We will, love to talk to you and see if we're the right fit for you, because the worst thing you want is to look back after there has been that demand letter or cease
Yeah.
and desist and think, I really should have reached out to an attorney. You want to be prepared on the front end, and we want your business to succeed.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. If our audience is out there, they're listening, they're like, "Oh man, we've got some work to do. We need to get ahead of this." Tell them, what are the next steps on, either setting up a call or a consultation with you guys.
Yes. So if you do want to reach out to us, our website is holmeslg.com. So HOLMES, L is in law, G is in group.com. And our telephone number is 214 444 9533. And we look forward to speaking with you.
Awesome. Well, Michael, I learned a lot today. I'm really happy that you came on. I'm thankful that you came on and shared your knowledge with our audience. I know they're going to be better for it. And hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Thank you very much for having me, Mario. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Focus Podcast. Mario Wilson with 12 Media Group, where we put your brand in focus.